Hello, I'm Donnie O'Fallon, Boomer Pastor here at Northside. I want to thank Rick Brown for his presentation of the 27 documents in estate planning just a few days ago, and we had a good response to that. Today, I want to talk to you about the decisions of implementing and using those 27 documents. Do you recall when you had the talk with your adolescents and you talked to them about the facts of life, the birds and the bees, and at the beginning of their life? It was a little awkward for me, I recall. Well, the other talk that I want to talk to you about today is also a little awkward, but I believe it's quite essential and necessary. And the purpose I share with you today is threefold: the necessity of the other talk, and why it is awkward, and how to address some of the issues and the cures for some of the awkwardness that you'll be facing as you choose to do this. And then finally, how that you as a parent can lead and begin to present some of the dynamics of the principles of this book by AARP, and it's called The Other Talk, and has the author is named Tim Prosch, is a pronunciation. Well, as you and I are already on a path for the rest of our lives, the circumstances of the day requires that there are four principles or four essentials that we need to preempt to deter potential crises that lie ahead. And I know for some, 3 families that I've talked to in recent days, that the storm clouds are already gathering on their horizon. One is the financial uncertainty of the future. How do you budget for unknown needs, for unknown lengths of time? And secondly, selecting the best living arrangements. If and when you and I were to have to leave our homes and go into an assisted living facility or some other facility, who's going to help us to choose and know when to do that? Getting the medical care that you need. Who's going to be your medical advocate? And taking charge for the rest of your life. How do you want your kids, and when do you want your kids to begin helping you to start taking over the decision-making process when you no longer can? The goal today is to provide you with tools and a roadmap to successfully engage them along with yourself in having this other talk. First, I want to let you know that there will be emotional hurdles that you're going to have to overcome. As I've begun to prepare and talk to my kids about this very thing, I've already faced some emotional hurdles for me personally by facing my own mortality. And then secondly, I want to provide some concepts and techniques to help you understand and prepare for this part of your life. For a little while now, there's been a storm brewing, a perfect storm, if you will, in the area of geriatric care since about 2010, when the first baby boomers began to turn 65 at an alarming rate of 10,000 per day. And then we're told that year there were some 78 million baby boomers. And then in 2011, there was between 20 and 21% increase in the number of baby boomers that were turning 65. So it is a number that seems to be growing. By 2030, we're told that there will be many, many more that are 65 and older. Those today who are 65 are going to be living 18 and a half years longer. So that means 83 to 85 years of age. And we already see and know that there's fewer medical professionals, internist doctors, geriatric doctors, and nurses are declining each and every day. We need to learn what it means to respond positively and not react whenever, situations arise. To respond to those emotional barriers that exist within your families. And to the reacting comes as a result of stress and heightened emotions that causes fractured relationships. Why don't people have the other talk? Because it is an emotionally challenging subject. Nonetheless, the responsibility still rests on you and I as parents. And by doing this very thing of having the other talk with our family, we will empower them for the potential events that lie ahead to help us in making those decisions about the rest of our lives. Also, it will help us to prepare for the decision-making process to avoid those crises when they come that we do not want to engulf all of our family. So, life can get out of focus very quickly, and we can expect a fair number of uncertain issues to happen, and those decisions are going to have to be made regarding those crises that come in our life. We must have a contingency plan, like the military, and be able to physically and mentally be able to walk through those 4 areas that I mentioned a moment ago. Do not make them struggle through the frustration and unpleasant experiences that perhaps you had with your parents or your grandparents, because people do not want to face the inevitable transformation that comes with aging. But it is essential. Ecclesiastes says there's a time and a season. There's a time for man to live and for man to be born and for man to die. There's a time to plant and there's a time to pluck up. Do that again. Ecclesiastes says there is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up. You and I must face our own mortality. We don't need to leave our kids with feelings of guilt or inadequacies over difficult decisions that they had to make because we didn't help them to make them beforehand. There's a lot of things, the helplessness of dealing with finances. I talked with one family over the past year. She has been responsible for her mother and her father, and they've had to go through these financial decisions. She's gone through it alone with bankruptcies and reverse mortgages and long-term care issues. We don't need to saddle that kind of a responsibility with them. Well, also we look at why don't we, or how do we want to maintain our existing relationships. How do we do that? As we age, there are certain things that we can expect if we live long enough. And we know that people are living longer. They're outliving their incomes. They are experiencing issues of, when they do that, they experience issues of role reversal that begins to occur. I know that for myself. I'm at a place where I'm beginning to realize that my stamina is shortened. Seems like recovery takes longer. And the snap, crackle, and pop is a part of every day of getting up and getting out of bed and getting the day going. And I looked just this morning, and it seemed like that the number of medications and prescriptions are more than there were this time last year. and I've gone from bifocals to trifocals. And there's one particular room that I visit more in my home than I used to. And I think you may know that room that I'm talking about. But role reversal is perhaps the most difficult bridge to cross. And when you and I reach that point physically, mentally, or cognitively, where we need some help, that we can no longer operate independently, we begin to face self-worth issues, self-respect, self-value, dignity. For them, it's also a shock, sudden responsibility if we don't do this, if we don't take care of these things, because they not only have to take care of themselves, their jobs, their families, now, and their kids, now they have us to deal with and to look to. So there's a great value in us stepping up and having this other talk that covers your life from now forward and for the rest of your life. And it will require work on both yours and your wife's part. If you are still married, your spouse is still alive. On behalf of each of us, it's going to require a lot of emotional preparation. But I believe it'll be worthwhile, it'll be positive, it'll be powerful, and our families will be appreciative that we took the time to do this. There are some things that we can do to set a stage in preparing for this. What are those potential negative consequences of remaining silent, of doing nothing? Neglect it or pretend it doesn't exist and it'll go away, but it won't. There are casualties along the way. The assets, the finances, the ineffectiveness of us being able to take care of the responsibilities that we once did for our families and with them, the emotional consequences that come. There's going to be casualties afterward, the dynamics of their previous relationships can be hard and can be hurt as a result. A friend of mine talked about how his mother and father moved from Michigan. They were fairly prominent. They moved to Arizona. They enjoyed a different kind of lifestyle at retirement. But 2 years after retirement, his dad was diagnosed with MS. And his mom, 3 years later, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so their family became fragmented. He had 3 brothers, and they began to each one assume a responsibility. But that responsibility took its toll on those families. Could have been some things, there were some things that could have been done that weren't done retrospectively, he said. But enjoying the benefits of families discussing these problems, these potential unknown variables, can be so helpful because it can preserve assets. What are those assets? Where are they? What are the account numbers? Who's the beneficiaries? Understanding that will help you to help them, and or them to help you rather, and preserving relationship. Don't lose sight of the most important need, and that is facing the human experience together. And nobody should be more important to you than your family. There's the elements of daily care and Medicare and Medicaid and the meds and all of that kind of thing. We have something to look forward to, don't we? Well, thank God that He is with us each day and enables us to be strong in Him and encouraged by our families. But families need to work together not only to take care of one another, but also to teach the next generation that's coming along, to be able to set the stage for that other talk, to begin by leaving an idea of a legacy. We start now, You or you and your spouse, by brainstorming and fleshing out what contingencies you may need to think of or prepare or plan for, some of those surprises. And there are 4 stages of being effective in setting the stage. Number 1, you start with your own mental state. You begin to understand and prepare for that financial aspect of this, have all of your accounts and numbers and IRAs or retirement plans and statements for each and all of that. And these are things that you're going to lay out and talk openly with your family. And we plan for those contingencies and what ifs, but also for that role reversal. When and if an appropriate time comes where someone else has to be responsible for those things, to establishing trigger points and some ground rules for taking care of that. Secondly, factor in the emotions of other generations. Prepare them emotionally before you sit down and to talk with them, because they're going to have feelings of fear and sadness and anger and panic and queasiness. Also, you're going to have to prepare them emotionally about the issues that you'll be talking about before that family meeting. Thirdly, establish a frame of reference. What do you want to accomplish? What's going to be the outcome? You want to avoid hysteria and panic, and plan a time and a date. Set it well in advance so everyone who needs to be there can and will be there. Put it on the calendar. And don't do like one individual that I heard about who planned and set a date for the family together, and when he got them all together and fed them, he said, "Well, let me tell you what we're going to talk about today." It was not a good experience for anyone who came there at that time. And so, but establish that frame of reference, what you want to achieve, the trigger points when we implement certain things, and based on previous discussions, when, where, and how will we discuss this plan. And it's not just planning for one time. There needs to be an annual kind of thing that you meet, because things change and things happen each year that our life passes by, either to finances or to health or some other issues. Fourthly, set a comfortable tone. Set some guidelines and an atmosphere. It needs to be informal. It needs to be informative. It needs to be lighthearted as much as it can, loving and productive and empowering. There are some action points that's going to be essential and needed, and it may take several weeks or several months to get together documents and vital information that you need in putting it together and putting this, having this meeting to be positive and productive. Don't procrastinate just because it gets hard. It's going to get difficult. This could take a little while, but what you're doing is to finance your uncertain future. How is that going to be done? Having some sort of a budget that you're going to put in place for the spending and actual versus what you'd like to do, and having that, having vacations and events and income planning. Where are your sources of income going to be? Social Security, IRAs, savings, annuities, pensions, etc. And what are the actual expenses? If you have Part B, Medicare, and then you have a supplement, just know that every year that you and I get older, there's going to be a price increase in that and in the medications. But understanding where the income is coming from, what are the expenses of insurance and long-term care and other essentials, and you talk about the what ifs of at this meeting. But you deal with, secondly, that selecting the best arrangements, living arrangements that you want to, where you want to be. If you can no longer be in your home, where do you want to go, and who's going to help you in making those decisions, and what are going to be those triggers that that we know that it's time, and they'll know it before you do, before you and I do. Thirdly, we mentioned previously of getting the adequate and appropriate medical care that we need and want to have. And then fourthly, who will take charge of that decision for you? Establish that. Of my two kids, I know we probably are going to want our daughter to do some things, and then we're going to want Adam to do some different kinds of things for us. I think it's important for us that this summer we're going to be establishing some guidelines and principles, and we're going to put something together, all of this information together, and we're going to have the talk with our kids this fall. Don't plan on this happening anytime soon, but I do want to leave a legacy for my family, for my kids. And I think it's important that we tell the story, our faith story, and what God has done in and through us in our lives and our service to Him and to one another. And we look at pictures of our families and our cars and our homes and the churches that we have served, that God's allowed us to have the privilege to serve in. And I believe there needs to be something of a family history and genealogy that we can leave a notebook or video or audio recordings for them and propagating that legacy of our lives, and share with them faith and what it has meant to you and me, and encourage them through and through these things. Thank you for the opportunity to share these things with you. Again, I want to encourage you to maybe take a look at this book, The Other Talk by Tim Prosch, and it's a publication from AARP. If any good thing has ever come from AARP, I think it may be this book. So it'll be an encouragement to you. It's about $15. You can get it through Amazon. It may be cheaper than that. But thank you for the opportunity. If I can help you in any way, and I have worked with a number of families in establishing and looking at some of these things, and would love to help you if you need that help in organizing The Other Talk with your family. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing the good things that have come out of The Other Talk with your family.